Now here we have a fragrance that came out way back in 1992. Whenever I think about the release of the women's and then the subsequent men's release, what happened with Issey Miyake is very similar to what happened with Thierry Mugler. The women's version of Angel and now Redolessence pour Femme came out in 92, 93, and then a few years later in the mid-90s we had the release of the men's counterparts. Well, here we have a classic. I'm excited to tell you what I think of this fragrance, what I get in terms of the smell, the notes, the performance, and all that good stuff. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's video and I tell you all about this fragrance from 1992, it's definitely been around for a long time now, 30 years. I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit that bell icon so you could be notified every time I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something today, or if you take something of value from today's episode. Now, one thing that I know about the men's version, Redolessence pour Homme, it has a lot of lotus and also yuzu. Now, this fragrance is a bit more on the floral side of things, and there's rose, there's lily of the valley, there's this lotus ingredient in there as well, a little bit of freesia too, if I'm not mistaken. And then you do have some kalone in the opening, and that's an ingredient that is used to make fragrances smell aquatic and ozonic. I'm excited to tell you what I think of the smell. Let's go ahead and start things off with the presentation. Now, it's worth mentioning that the perfumer for this fragrance is Jacques Cavallier. He is one of the most amazing perfumers, has done fragrances like Tiger by Bulgari, which is one of my favorite fragrances ever, and you can check out his resume. It's quite extensive. And here we have a fragrance that actually smells very similar to the men's. So both of them have this note of lotus in there. It's very starchy, it's kind of floral, but definitely on the clean, musky side of things. It has a very unique texture to it, a very unique olfactory texture. And it's one of those things that can't really be explained too well with words. It's kind of ineffable, but when you smell it, you're like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. The lotus, the starchiness, the lily, the clean white florals do some wonderful things in here. And then there's also a little bit of that aquatic touch as well. So not something that smells like ambroxan, which I think might be a good thing for a lot of people, but the kalone kind of adds like this fresh, almost salty, aquatic presence to the fragrance without being too salty so that it smells like a novelty release, right? So that's not happening in here, which is good. As it dries down, you have some smooth woods that serve as a nice contrast to all the other notes that I mentioned. And there's also nothing sweet about this fragrance whatsoever. So what I love about this fragrance is it is very youthful, it is feminine, it has this sort of almost metrosexual feel about it, and I think the same thing can be said about the men's version, because it's not too often that you find a men's fragrance that really puts floral ingredients up front and center, and that's precisely what is happening in here. Those starchy white florals are done very, very well, and there's a good reason why this fragrance has withstood the test of time, and even 3 decades later, it still has a very strong reputation to uphold, and it's admired by so many fragrance consumers. So Redolessence pour Femme by Issey Miyake, Japanese brand. I think this fragrance smells awesome, and it's a fragrance that I don't even think my wife has tried it, to be honest with you, but it's the type of fragrance that she would enjoy, although she does like some of the more heady floral fragrances, whether that be Narcissus or Freesia or something that has a bit more of a statement making ability. This is kind of on the smooth, soft, quiet side of things. It honestly at times can come across smelling a little bit like freshly laundered clothing because it does have this clean, musky vibe about it. But I personally really enjoy the smell, and I think it's a classic, and chances are everybody who's watching this video right now has smelled this fragrance before, or perhaps you even own it. If that is the case, let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Do you like this one? Are you a fan of it? Is this one that you bought way back when it came out? Is it a recent acquisition? Always love interacting with my subscribers. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this fragrance is unique for the time period in which it came out. Even since then, there haven't been a whole lot of fragrances on the market that have employed that L'Odyssée Parfum or even Pour Homme DNA, because I do find there to be a similarity with that starchy lotus ingredient that is up front and center. But it is a very unique fragrance, especially for its time, even now, and the smell is very appealing because it just comes across, in my opinion, smelling clean. Now, scent is subjective. You might get a different impression from it, but for me, very accessible, very easy to wear. Longevity is about 6 hours. I'm sure when it was first released, the performance was a little bit better, but you know, fragrances do get reformulated throughout the years, either because of a lack of certain raw materials or to cut costs or whatever the motivation may be. 6 hours is what I'm getting, and I have tried this on skin. In terms of the projection, did really well for the first 45 minutes of application. It did start to sit closer to the skin right around hour 3, totally disappeared right around hour 6 or something like that. Then you can reapply or put on a different fragrance. Versatility, leans a little feminine, great for the hotter weather, great for casual and formal scenarios, although percentage-wise, it's like 60% casual, 40% formal, and I can see anybody of any age really enjoying this one. Somebody who's a little bit older, I think, would like it for nostalgic reasons, especially if you were in your teens or 20s or 30s when it came out. So now you should be in your 50s or 60s or whatever. But I think because it's still kind of timeless and youthful, I think somebody who's a little bit younger could really enjoy this one too. So very versatile in terms of age range. Presentation, very iconic presentation to the bottle with the conical shape. So my final verdict is, if you're looking for a classic fragrance, one that can be found online for a very inexpensive price tag, I'm gonna leave links down below if I manage to find it online for a really good price, which shouldn't be too difficult to do just because it's been around for such a long time now. I think this is a great, clean, musky, slightly aquatic, starchy, floral fragrance that has withstood the test of time. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video or if you took something of value from today's episode, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. It would mean so much to me. Hit the bell so you can be notified whenever I do upload future videos. Give the video a thumbs up. Love you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.